So in this session we are going to discuss about optical fiber connectors, fiber to fiber joints, and mechanical misalignment in fibers. So in the previous topic we have discussed about delay differences and pulse broadening which occurs in the optical fibers. In both the cases, step index and graded index fibers. So based on that, we have an example where you just estimate what is the delay difference and what is the RMS pulse broadening, which may be due to intermodal dispersion, and finding the maximum bit rate and the bandwidth length product of this. So in this example, he has given a 6 kilometer optical fiber link, which is consisting of a multimode step index fiber with a core index of 1.5. So length of the fiber is taken as capital L, 6 kilometers, and the core refractive index N1 is taken as 1.5, and a relative refractive index difference of 1%, so that is delta. So delta is 1%, so it will be converted to a value by dividing it by 100%. We have to estimate the delay difference, that is we have to find delta TS since it's a multimode step index fiber, and delta TS is given as L into N1 delta by C. So L is known to be 6 kilometer, N1 is 1.5, delta is 1 by 100. So C is taken as 2.998 into 10 power 3 meters, 10 power 8 meters per second, or 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second. So here we have assumed 2.998 into 10 power 8 meters per second. So on substitution, I'll get the delay difference as 300 nanoseconds. The second part of this, the RMS pulse broadening has to be calculated, which is sigma s, and the maximum bit rate has to be calculated, and the bandwidth length product has to be determined. So sigma s is given by the formula L into N1 delta divided by 2 into square root of 3 into C. So on substitution of these values, I'll get it as 86.7 nanoseconds. Then we have to find what is the maximum bit rate. The maximum bit rate is Bt max equal to 1 by 2 times tau, or 1 by 2 times delta Ts, where tau and delta Ts are taken as the delay differences or pulse spreading in the fiber. So on substitution, I'll get it as 1.7 Mbps, that is megabits per second. Then I can use an alternative method of finding Bt max, that is 0.2 by sigma s. Sigma s is the RMS pulse broadening. So 0.2 divided by the RMS pulse broadening will give me the maximum bit rate. So this comes around 2.3 megabits per second. So we have to determine the last part of this, which is bandwidth length product. So bandwidth is already calculated. So it is 2.3 Mbps. So here it is 2.3 multiplied by the length of the fiber, which is 6 kilometer, which comes around 13.8 megahertz kilometer. So this is the bandwidth length product of the fiber. Then we have a similar kind of problem where we are supposed to compare the RMS pulse broadening per kilometer due to the intermodal dispersion in multimode step index fiber with the corresponding RMS pulse broadening for a graded index profile fiber of parabolic profile with the same data, that is same core index, which is 1.5, and relative refractive index difference delta as 1%. So taking down all the values from the problem, we find what is sigma s per kilometer. It is 14.4 nanoseconds per kilometer. So this is the pulse broadening which occurs in graded index fiber. So if I compare this with the step index fiber, in step index fiber it is very high, but here it is very less. Similarly, we are supposed to find sigma g, which is the relative refractive index difference value based finding the RMS pulse broadening. So that is per kilometer, L into N1 delta square by 20 into square root of 3 into C. So if I substitute, I'll get it as 14.4 picoseconds per kilometer. So this is how we are supposed to find the pulse broadening in a graded index fiber and compare it with the step index fiber. Then we start with optical fiber connectors. So if I join the optical fiber, the fibers can be joined in two different methods. One is either it can be joined permanently, so permanent way of joining it, or it may be joined temporarily. So if I say permanent joint of a cable, I state it as a splice. Process is splicing, and the temporary joint can be done using a connector. So fiber splicers, if I consider, these are semi-permanent or permanent joints which finds a major use in most of the optical fiber telecommunication system, which is similar to electrical soldered joints. So it is a permanent way or semi-permanent way of joining the fibers. Similarly, the second one, demountable fiber connectors or simple connectors. So these are the removable joints which can allow easy, fast and manual coupling and uncoupling of fibers. So it means that anyone can join the optical fibers using a connector, and these joints are removable, which can allow the light very easily to enter the optical fiber. It can be very fast and manual coupling and uncoupling of fibers. So which is similar to the electrical plugs and sockets. So it is not a permanent joint, it is just a removable joint which can be done. So fiber to fiber joints are designed ideally to couple all the light propagating in one fiber into adjoining fiber. So if I consider two fibers into which the light from one fiber has to enter the other, one is considered to be the emitting fiber, one is considered to be the receiving fiber. Then we have fiber to fiber joints. So how we have to join the optical fibers? There are number of intermediate fiber connections or joints, and they are dependent on the length of the link. So that is very important. Whenever we try to join the optical fibers or make any connections using optical connectors, we have to think about the length of the link. And whenever we consider the process of joining the fibers or interconnecting them, there is certain requirement which has to be met, such as it has to have low loss. It is giving us very uh, less loss or transmission loss, and distortion is also reduced. So if I want to choose any optical connectors or splicer for joining, I have to see that the losses occurs is very less and distortion is very much reduced. These interconnections will occur at the optical source, which is at the input end, and at the photodetector, and at the intermediate joints within the cable, where two fibers are joined. Normally we see this process of joining the fibers whenever we consider fiber to fiber joints or connections. At intermediate points on a link where two cables are connected, the particular technique can be used to join the fibers, which is entirely dependent whether it is a permanent bond or it is a demountable connection. And a permanent joint or a bond is referred to as a splice, as we have already discussed in previous slide, where a demountable joint is known as a connector. Every joining technique is subject to certain conditions, so that is very important, like optical power loss at the joint. What is the amount of loss which is occurring when we try to join the optical fibers? And these losses are also dependent on parameters such as input power distribution, the length of the fiber between the source and the joint. So this is very important. These losses depends on the parameters such as input power distribution, the length of the fiber between the optical source and the joints. The geometrical and the waveguide characteristics of the two fiber ends at the joint and the fiber end phase qualities are to be considered when we try to join the fibers. Not only considering just a loss and distortion as a factor, but we also consider the geometrical characteristics of the fiber ends which are used whenever we join it, and the fiber end face quality. So the fiber end faces should be always smoother, and they should be flat, and they should be perpendicular. So that is very important, perpendicular to the axis of the fiber core for efficient coupling. So this is about the fiber and phase qualities. Coming to the next, we have mechanical misalignment. Whenever we go with the making some joints using fibers, that is joining the optical fibers, we look into a major problem when joining the fibers due to their microscopic size. So that is a major problem we face when we join the fibers. Then radiation loss results from mechanical misalignment. So that is a major type of loss which exists whenever there is mechanical misalignment. And the emitting fiber radiation cone, if it is not matching with the acceptance cone of the receiving fiber, then also there is a radiation which may occur. So that is a sort of mechanical misalignment. And the magnitude of radiation, that is amount of radiation, depends on the degree of misalignment. Like the misalignment, if it is lesser, I can say that the magnitude of radiation loss is less, and if the degree of misalignment is very high, then the loss which is from radiation is very high. So uh, we expect that these three mechanical misalignments which may occur in a fiber while we join them. So the three fundamental types of mechanical misalignments between the fibers are lateral or axial misalignment, longitudinal or end separation of the fibers, and angular displacement. So this is a lateral or axial misalignment, wherein we see that the emitting fiber and receiving fiber are joined, but the axis, there is a separation by a distance d. The axis of both the fibers are not in a same plane, so that the light from the emitting fiber may not enter the receiving fiber without any loss. Then we have longitudinal or end separation. So in this case, we are going to we are going to see the separation of the fiber end faces. So these are the end faces of the fiber, and there is a separation between these two. Even though the fibers may be joined using a connector or a splicer, there is a fiber end phase separation, what we call it as a longitudinal separation of the fiber. Then we have angular displacement. So if we join the fiber, and if there is any angle formed between the fiber end faces of emitting and receiving fiber, we have taken it as just an angle theta which may be formed between the fiber end face of transmitting and the receiving fiber. We call it as angular displacement of the fiber, which is a misalignment. Then we have a small derivation related to axial misalignment. So in the axial misalignment, we just consider the step index fibers, two identical step index fibers of radii A. So each fiber is having a radius of A, and there is a common core area between these two fibers where the power density is maximum, because the power from the emitting fiber and the receiving fiber are combined at this particular point where the density is very high. So if I consider that, suppose the axes are offset by a separation d at a common junction. So as we have seen earlier, there is an axial separation or lateral separation. Then assume there is a uniform modal power distribution in the emitting fiber. So distribution is normal or uniform. Since the numerical aperture is constant across the end faces of both the fibers, the optical power coupled from one fiber to another fiber is simply proportional to the common area of the two fiber cones. It is the common area where the density of light or density of the optical signal is very high, because it gets accumulated in a common area. So we say that the power coupled from one fiber into the another is simply the proportional to the common area of the fiber cones. So we take it as A common, which is 2a square into cos inverse of d by 2a, or arc cos of d by 2a, minus d into a square minus d square by 4 to the power half. So this is the common area what we are going to consider. Then for a step index fiber, the coupling efficiency is the ratio of the common core area of the core end face area. So the ratio of the common core area of the core end face area. So end face area is A, which is pi r square. So here A is nothing but the radius of the fiber. So we take it as pi a square. So eta represents the efficiency of the fiber, or coupling efficiency of the fiber, and the type of fiber is step index fiber. So area common by pi a square is equal to 2 by pi into r cos of d by 2a minus d by pi a into 1 minus d by 2a the whole square to the power half. So this is the coupling efficiency for a step index fiber. Now we will calculate for a graded index fiber what is the total power in the optical fiber of two graded index fibers. So the calculation of power coupled from one graded index fiber into another identical one is more complex in comparison with the step index fiber, since the numerical aperture is going to vary across the fiber end face. If I consider a step index fiber, the numerical aperture is constant, it will not vary. But in this case, in a graded index fiber, the numerical aperture is going to vary across the fiber end faces. So that is very important while we consider the power distribution from one graded index fiber into another. So because of this problem, the total power coupled into the receiving fiber at a given point in the common core is limited by the numerical aperture of the transmitting or the receiving fiber, depending on whichever is smaller at that particular point. So that is very important. If I consider total power of a receiving and a transmitting fiber, we consider the common core area, which is limited by the numerical aperture of the fiber. Now if I consider if the end face of the graded index fiber is uniformly illuminated, then the optical power accepted by the core will be the power which is falling within the numerical aperture of the fiber. So this is very important what we consider. The optical power accepted by the core will be that power which falls within the numerical aperture of the fiber if it is properly illuminated. The fiber is uniformly illuminated. Then the optical power density at a particular point R on a fiber end is proportional to the square of the local numerical aperture at that particular point. So this is very important. The power density of the fiber is always proportional to the square of the local numerical aperture at that particular point. So the total power in the fiber is related to P of 0, that is the power density at the origin of the fiber, which is at the fiber core, which is at the center, which is the power density at the core axis. So that is given as P is equal to integral of 0 to 2 pi 0 to a P of r into r dr d theta. So now we are going to consider the parabolic profile graded index fiber. So in order to consider the profile parameter for a parabolic profile graded index fiber, the value of alpha is assumed to be equated to 2. Then the power density at a point R is going to change. That is, P of R is equal to P of 0 into 1 minus R by A the whole square, where R is the radius of the emitting source, A is the radius of the fiber core. So substituting for P of R in P, the relationship between the axial power density and the total power in the emitting fiber can be obtained. So P is equal to P of 0 into integral of 0 to 2 pi d theta integral of 0 to a into 1 minus r square by a square into r dr. So I will just integrate d theta with respect to theta and apply the limits 0 and 2 pi. Similarly here I will just split this integral of 1 0 to a r dr minus integral of 0 to a r cube by a square into r. So just multiplying r square with r. Then I will integrate. So once I integrate and apply the upper and lower limits, I end up with P is equal to pi a square by 2 into P of 0. So this is the power which is at this particular common area of the fiber core when they are separated by a axial distance d. So we are supposed to calculate the power transmitted across the butt joint of two parabolic profiles with an axial offset of d. So the overlapping region must be considered separately for two areas A1 and A2 here. So in area A1 the numerical aperture is limited by that of the emitting fiber, whereas in area A2 the numerical aperture of the receiving fiber is smaller than that of the emitting fiber. So this has to be noted. If I consider the area A1 and A2, we have to consider that the numerical aperture is limited by the emitting fiber, and similarly A2 the numerical aperture area of the receiving fiber is smaller than that of the emitting fiber. Now we think that, or we assume that the light from the first fiber can easily enter the second fiber whenever the numerical apertures of both the fibers are equal, because numerical aperture is the area or it is the light gathering capability of the fiber. So if the area of the fiber core is more, it means that the light gathering capability of such fibers are very high. So considering that, I will determine the power coupled into the receiving fiber. So the power density is integrated over the area A1 and A2. Then the numerical aperture of the emitting fiber is smaller than that of the receiving fiber in area A1. All the power emitted in this region will be accepted by the receiving fiber. So this has to be noted down. Since the numerical aperture of the emitting fiber is smaller than that of the receiving fiber, in area A1, all the power emitted in this region will be accepted by the receiving fiber. So if the numerical aperture of the emitting fiber is smaller than the numerical aperture of the receiving fiber, then the power emitted in this particular region will be entirely accepted by the receiving fiber. So the received power P1 in area A1 is given by P is equal to 2 times integral of 0 to theta 1 integral of r1 to a P of r dr d theta. So again I will make the substitution for P of r, which is P of 0 into 1 minus r by a the whole square. So I have substituted it. Then I will just apply the limits of integration, and I will just go through the triangle which is formed by considering just the fiber with its radius a, and the angle formed is theta 1, and the axial offset is half, which is d by 2, so that we consider only equal to a. So r1 is d by 2 cos theta and theta 1 is r cos d by 2a. Just we are finding what is cos theta from this triangle which is formed. Now we carry the integration here, so that p1 will be a square by 2 into p of 0 into this cos inverse of d by 2a minus 1 minus d by 2a to the power 2 to the power half into d by 6a into 5 minus d square by 2a square. So this is power P1. Now we know that P naught is given by 2p by pi a square. So now again we are going to make some assumptions related to this. We are going to end up with what is the total power PT. So in area A2, the emitting fiber has a larger numerical aperture than the receiving fiber. This means that the receiving fiber will accept only that fraction of the emitted optical power that falls within its own numerical aperture. So this has to be noted again. The emitting fiber will have a larger numerical aperture than the receiving fiber. In such cases, the only certain fraction of the emitted optical power falls within this numerical aperture. And this power can be considered only from some symmetric considerations. So the numerical aperture of the receiving fiber at a point x2 in area A2 is the same as the numerical aperture of the emitting fiber at a symmetrical point x1 in area A1. It means that at a particular point or a particular common area where I considered A1 and A2's numerical aperture, they are found to be equal. So that the power density at that point where the numerical aperture of both the fibers are same are found to be equal, and it is more. So thus the optical power accepted by the receiving fiber at any point x2 in area A2 is equal to that of the emitted from the symmetrical point x1 in area A1. So the total power coupled across the area A2 is equal to the power coupled across area A1. So combining these two, the total power will be PT equal to P1 plus P2. So the total power will be sum of the power which is coupled across area A1 as well as area A2. But the total power which is coupled across area A2 and A1 are same due to the symmetrical numerical apertures in both the areas A1 and A2. So I can say PT is equal to P1 plus P2, or I can say that P2 and P1 are same. So it results in PT equal to twice of P1. So P1 is already known. So just a substitution in PT, I'll get the total power in the graded index fiber with the axial offset of D. So PT is equal to 2 by T into P arc cos of D by 2A minus 1 minus D by 2A the whole square to the power half into D by 6A into 5 minus D square by 2A square. So this is the total power which can be obtained in the optical fiber whenever the numerical apertures of both the fibers which are axially misaligned are same. Now, the case where we are considering the axial misalignment is very small compared with the core radius. So D value is very small in comparison with A. Then I can say that PT will be approximately equal to P times 1 minus 8D by 3 pi A. And this is accurate within 1% for D by TA is less than 0.4. It means D is less than 0.4 times A. In such case, I can use this formula to find the total power due to the mechanical misalignment in fiber, which is axial type. So that is D is less than 0.4 A. If I say that D is 10 micrometer, then if I say A is 1 micrometer, it is D is less than 0.4 micrometer. So D, whatever I have assumed is 10 micrometer. So 10 micrometer is not lesser than 0.4 micrometer. So in such case, we are supposed to find the total power by considering this equation. If D by A is less than 0.4, then only we are supposed to use this equation to find the total power due to the axial misalignment in a fiber. So the coupling loss for the offsets which are given as LF, that is fiber loss, minus 10 log of the coupling efficiency or fiber efficiency eta F, which is also equal to minus 10 log of Pt by P. T is the total power and P is the power in the particular fiber. Then if the fibers are longitudinally separated by a gap S, then for a step index fiber the loss is given by LF minus 10 log of A by A plus S into tan theta C, where theta C is the critical acceptance angle of the fiber. So this is the fiber loss if I consider the misalignment is longitudinal. So longitudinal separation is the misalignment what we consider here. Then when the axes of two joined fibers are angularly misaligned at the joint, for two step index fibers that have an angular misalignment theta, the optical power loss at the joint is given by LF is equal to minus 10 log of cos theta into 1 by 2 minus 1 by pi into P into 1 minus P square to the power half minus 1 by pi into arc sine of P minus Q into 1 by pi into y of 1 minus y square to the power half plus 1 by pi into arc sine y plus 1 by 2, where P, Q and Y are given as these three expressions. So in this case we are considering the angular misalignment. So if the angular misalignment is considered, then the fiber loss is different. If the axial misalignment is considered, the fiber loss is different. And if the longitudinal separation is considered, the fiber loss is different. So this is how we are going to determine the total power in the optical fiber and the losses which may occur due to the variation in the alignment. So we have discussed about problems on RMS pulse broadening, finding the delay differences, optical fiber connectors, and difference between connectors and splicers, and what are the requirements for selection of a connector, and what is coupling efficiency, and we have considered what are the different mechanical misalignments in fibers, and what is the total power when there is axial misalignment between the graded index fibers of same numerical apertures, and the total loss or the fiber loss due to axial misalignment, fiber loss due to longitudinal misalignment, and fiber loss due to the angular misalignment in a fiber. So these are the topics what we have considered under this particular video.